When you think of the word history, what's the first thing that pops into your head? A bunch of dates, famous names, big battles? For a long, long time, that's pretty much what it was. But today, we're going to look at history a little differently. We're going behind the scenes to explore the historian's craft, not just what happened, but how we actually know it happened at all.
So our main source for this explainer is, believe it or not, a history textbook. Now, it might look pretty standard on the outside, but the philosophy behind it, and yeah, even the image right there on its cover, reveals a pretty fascinating story about how we understand the past.
Because that's really the key here. History isn't just a list of facts to be memorized. No way. It's an investigation. You know, the historian is basically a detective, trying to piece together a story from clues that are scattered all over the place and are often totally silent. And this book? It's designed to be a field guide for that exact investigation. All right, so every good investigation needs a starting point, right? A case, if you will. So let's look closer at that weird object on the cover. Just imagine an archaeologist dusting this thing off, finding it for the very first time. It's a clue. But what does it mean? How do you even begin to make sense of something like that? So this thing is a Harappan seal. It's one of the most unique artifacts from the ancient Indus Valley civilization. It's made from a soft stone called steatite. It has this cool carving of an animal and, now get this, it has a script that to this day remains completely undeciphered. It is a message from thousands of years ago that we still can't read. So how on earth can we know anything about the people who made it? Well, to even start to answer that, we first have to wrap our heads around the idea that the way we approach history itself is changing. The goal isn't to just be told what this seal means, but to learn how to figure it out for ourselves.
And this slide really shows you that fundamental shift. The old way, it was all about rote learning. You know, history is this fixed body of knowledge where the textbook was the final word. But the new approach, it's completely different. It's all about critical thinking, where you become an active participant in your own learning by exploring all kinds of different sources.
Yeah, this quote from the book's foreword just nails it. It's about that shift from being a passive audience to being an active detective. The goal isn't just to receive information anymore. It's to engage with it, to question it, and hey, maybe even to create new knowledge yourself. Okay, so if we're going to be detectives, we need a toolkit, right? What are our tools? What clues does a historian actually work with to try and reconstruct the world of the people who made that mysterious seal? Well, the answer is a lot more than you probably think. It's not just about dusty old documents in some archive. The toolkit is vast and it's incredibly varied. I mean, just look at this list. Of course, you've got your archaeological sites and inscriptions, but historians are also digging into the personal diaries of rebels, old police reports, and even tax records. They analyze paintings, photographs, and something that's becoming more and more important, oral evidence. You know, the stories that get passed down through generations. It is all potential evidence. And that right there is a huge takeaway. What we even consider to be a valid source is always changing. For a long time, only written records were seen as trustworthy. Oral history was just dismissed as stories. But then historians began asking new questions, like, hey, what was life actually like for ordinary people? And they realized they needed new kinds of clues. The vision of history broadened, and so did the toolkit. Okay, so you've gathered all your clues, your seals, your diaries, your photographs. You have a room full of evidence. But here comes the most important part of the entire process. The evidence doesn't just speak for itself. Let's go back to our seal. The source material tells us that when the archaeologist Alexander Cunningham first found one, he had no idea what it was. The clue was literally right there in his hands, but it was meaningless to him. And why? Because he wasn't asking the right questions yet. He just didn't have the context. And this is the reality for every single piece of historical evidence. An old photograph, a ruin, a government document, a seal. On its own, it's just a thing. It's silent. This is the secret. This is the historian's craft in a nutshell. It's the curiosity, the inquiry, the question that you bring to the evidence that unlocks its story. You have to track the clues, and then you have to make the connections. That is what transforms a silent object into a voice from the past. And this brings us right back to the beginning. This whole new way of thinking about history. It's not just for professional historians. It's a mindset. It puts the power of interpretation and discovery directly into your hands.
So, the crucial point is this. Being a student of history isn't about having the best memory for dates. It's about being the best detective, the one who can find the clues, sure, but more importantly, the one who can see the patterns,
ask the clever questions, and make the connections that bring a story to life.
And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. Just think about our world right now. What are the sources that we're creating every single day? Your text messages, your social media posts, your online shopping history. What story is a future historian going to tell about us using those clues?
Because in the end, that's what history is. It's not a single, fixed thing that happened. It's a story, constructed from evidence, shaped by the questions we ask and the connections we make. It is the story that we, as the detectives of the past, choose to tell.